Chop them all down. Not one tree left standing. That's what Karen screamed at the cops while standing in the middle of my apple orchard, as if she was ordering an execution. And when I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out one simple piece of paper, she froze like she'd just seen a ghost. You're probably wondering what on earth could terrify a self-proclaimed HOA president that badly. Stick with me because this story gets insane. Act 1. The conflict begins. I'm Bob Roberts, third-generation caretaker of Sunset Orchard. 47 apple trees stretched across 2.5 acres right in the middle of Willowbrook Heights. My grandfather planted most of these trees back in the 1950s, when this land was still farmland, and the city was nothing more than a dusty outline on blueprints. For me, these trees aren't just trees. They're memory keepers. They listen to my late wife's laughter, to my son Danny's first words, to every Sunday morning when I talk to them like old friends. You might call me crazy for talking to trees, but hey, at least they don't argue back. So picture this. 5 in the morning, the sun barely peeking through coffee steam in my hand when I hear the sharp click-clack of heels on asphalt. I turn, and there she is, platinum blonde curls, oversized sunglasses, crisp white blazer, and a hot pink clipboard tucked under her arm like it's a badge of authority. That was my introduction to Karen Whitmore. 45 years old, fresh from a messy divorce in San Francisco, looking to rebuild her life. And apparently the way she chose to rebuild was by tearing down mine. Within a week, she was strutting around like she ran the neighborhood, measuring my fence line with a laser tool, snapping photos of my gate, scribbling furiously on that pink clipboard. Then one afternoon, Danny comes home, throws a neon pink paper on the table and says, "Dad, you gotta see this." Across the top in Comic Sans font, the size of a billboard. Official HOA violation notice. And below it, a list of violations that would make you laugh if it wasn't my life on the line. Excessive organic matter odor, agricultural debris, trees taller than 15 feet. Translation: she wanted me to chop down every single apple tree on my property. I crumpled the notice and thought about tossing it in the compost, but something in Danny's eyes made me pause. "Dad, she gives me Stephen King vibes," he said. And you know what? He was right. So I called the real HOA office. The woman on the line actually chuckled. "Sir, Willowbrook Heights hasn't had an active HOA for almost 8 years. That lady has no authority." That should have been the end of it, right? Wrong. Because people like Karen, people who invent power, don't just back down when exposed, they double down. Act 2. Escalation and doubt. 2 mornings later, 3 vehicles pull up outside my gate. A city truck, a sedan with government plates, and Karen's spotless SUV bringing up the rear like she's leading a parade. Out steps Officer Martinez, clipboard in hand. Behind him, a code inspector. And trailing right behind Karen, phone out recording everything like she's hosting a reality show. She points at my compost bins, announcing loud enough for her camera. As you can see, the violations are extensive. The inspection dragged on for hours. Martinez was respectful, but he explained there were gaps in my grandfather's old paperwork. Flood damage back in the 80s left some permits incomplete. And now, technically, I had 30 days to produce documents proving I had the right to keep farming here. 30 days, or risk losing the orchard. That night, Danny stood by the kitchen window staring at the trees like he was memorizing them, afraid they'd vanish. My chest tightened. This kid already lost his mom. Was I about to let him lose his childhood home too? And here's the truth: for one dark moment I almost gave up. I thought maybe Karen was right. Maybe I was clinging to the past. Maybe selling the land and moving on was the safer choice. I sat there staring at that pink notice, feeling smaller than I ever had before. But then fate has a way of showing up when you need it most. Digging through boxes in the garage, I found an envelope marked in my grandfather's handwriting. Emergency legal documents. Open only if necessary. My hands shook as I broke the old wax seal. Inside were certificates, city planning maps, even letters signed by the mayor in 1953. Turns out my grandfather wasn't just a farmer. He was on the original city planning board, and he had negotiated something extraordinary. Hereditary stewardship rights. Our family wasn't just allowed to farm this land, we had veto power over any development decisions within a 1-mile radius. My orchard was legally untouchable. I called my lawyer, Sarah Williams. Her exact words, "Bob, you're sitting on a nuclear weapon of property law. Karen's entire campaign isn't just baseless, it's illegal." I could have ended it right there, but I didn't. I decided to wait, to let Karen dig her own grave deeper. Because sometimes the sweetest justice is letting someone expose themselves. And she did. Oh, she did. One night, motion lights flared in the orchard. I looked outside, and there she was, white blazer glowing in the dark, clutching that ridiculous pink clipboard sneaking between my trees. Only this time she wasn't just snooping. She was planting containers chemicals, staging evidence. My cameras caught everything. When I stepped out onto the porch and flipped the lights, she froze like a raccoon caught in the trash. "Looking for something, Karen?" I asked. She stammered some nonsense about safety inspections, then raised her voice. "You can't stop progress, Mr. Roberts. This farm is holding back our community." That was the moment I realized this wasn't about apple trees. This was about her proving to herself that she wasn't a failure. And the only way she knew how to do that was by controlling everyone else. Act 3. The Showdown. The very next morning, 3 squad cars rolled into my driveway. Karen had called the cops claiming I'd threatened her. She strutted out of her SUV, clipboard clutched like a Bible, telling officers, "This man is dangerous. He intimidated me. He refuses to comply with our community's standards." For once I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I simply reached into my jacket pocket and handed Sergeant Williams a folder. Inside were my grandfather's documents, heritage site protections, veto rights, agricultural preservation. The sergeant's eyes widened. "Wait. Robert Roberts, Sr., founder of the City Planning Board." He turned to Karen. "Ma'am, do you realize this property holds protections under state law? This family has legal precedence over any HOA or zoning regulation." I'll never forget the look on Karen's face. Her lips parted, color-drained clipboard trembling in her hand. But still she pushed back. "I don't care about some dusty old paperwork. We have rules now, modern rules." That's when another voice cut in. From across the street, Judge Patricia Wilson. Yes, an actual judge stepped forward. "Officers, I can personally verify those documents. Mrs. Whitmore has been operating under serious misconceptions of the law." The crowd of neighbors gasped, phones recording whispers spreading. And in that instant, Karen realized she'd lost. But of course she went down swinging. She jabbed her finger at my orchard, shrieking, "Remove them all! These trees are hazards. They're dragging down our property values." And then karma intervened. She stepped backward onto a fallen apple and went down hard. White blazer, pink clipboard papers scattering like confetti across the wet driveway. The crowd burst into nervous laughter. The cops helped her up, but the dignity gone forever. "This isn't over," she muttered, brushing mud off her jacket, but everyone knew it was. Final beat. And that's where I'll leave you, the so-called HOA president, humiliated on my driveway, exposed as a fraud, while my orchard stood untouched behind me.